Well, hello YouTube, PD2 Finger here, and I gotta tell you I'm making a recommendation video, and this is for Beatles fans. If you don't like the Beatles, well, I don't know what you're doing here. I love the Beatles, and today I clicked on the Analogues. The Analogues is a German group, and they were showing up on my feed for a few days, and I just refused to click on it because anyone who's talking about analog is better than digital or tube amps are better than modeling, most of those people are they're stooges, is what they are. They really don't. That type of thinking, that whole elite fetishism, writing off people, blanket statements. No, that's not for me. It doesn't matter what it's recorded on. If it's good, it's good. You know. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. The Analogues. I clicked on it. It's a band playing the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper record, start to finish, live, and it's like so close to the album. I mean, of course, it's not going to, exactly. There's a lot of differences, and I've seen Beatle covers. I've seen Paul McCartney play live twice, and to be honest, what I saw tonight watching the Analogues was way closer than what Paul McCartney's version sounded like, and that's what was so touching about it. Was the Beatles had made this decision. They weren't going to tour anymore, and that meant that they could go crazy in the studio and do a lot of tricks, multi-track recording, bringing in orchestral instruments, sound effects, tape loops, all this crazy stuff that the Beatles did to make that music so unique and so special. Now, I feel personally, my taste, like LSD really shaped Sgt. Pepper, but then they went to India, they went on this spiritual trip, and they were really smoking a lot of weed, and they did the White Album, and that's the one that's my album. I mean, for me, Let It Be is a great album, Abbey Road is great, the medley, I mean, it's the Beatles. All of their stuff for me is great. Even the I Want to Hold Your Hand stuff, I like it. But it doesn't compare to me to the post LSD or after Revolver, when they started really coming into their own. And it wouldn't surprise me if we found out later on, it came out that they didn't write those songs, that this was part of a huge think tank conspiracy to change, to try to erode the family and introduce drugs, homosexuality, the 60s, the hippie, the me generation, all that stuff. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying that's what I believe. Don't call me some conspiracy nut. Paul is dead, all that stuff. I'm just saying, to me, I hold what they did, like Adrian Belew says, it all begins and it all ends with the Beatles, because pretty much, I mean, their work is so unbelievably perfect and great, even in all of its flaws, that it can easily be kind of written off or pigeonholed or be irritating for people that don't understand it. People that have never really sat down and dug in and be like, I'm going to listen to the White Album start to finish. Because if you've never done that, and you're like, you've got your Judas Priest and your Alice in Chains, you're missing out. You're missing out on some of the best music that was ever made in the history of the world. And that's a fact. So this is why I was so excited today watching Sgt. Pepper in its entirety, watching the Analogues perform. They do an incredible job. It looked like on their website they use authentic instruments. They get the real deal stuff. And just certain touches, how all of a sudden, a couple of guys would walk out on stage and they would have recorders, and they would do there's a little flute line, and they would do that. A guy comes out while a dude is sitting there playing the piano, and comes out, puts his arm around the dude, and plays another part that's on the album that was another track. stuff like that. How they have the orchestral instruments. I did notice some lip syncing going on. Bungalow Bill looked like they used some kind of a sampler, which looked like a Mellotron that had been modified, customized. I don't know. Maybe it's actually tape loops. I don't know, but it was very cool nonetheless. Blackbird, when they performed it, it looked like a 60-40 type deal where they had 60% of the mix was studio recording of a guitar and a voice with a guy on stage with 40% of his guitar and 40% of his vocal mic. Maybe I'm wrong. There were some, to me, I noticed it looked like there was some tracks being played. And obviously, Revolution number 9 is a highlight for me. I love that piece of music. However, I would be really surprised if the story we know, the classical John Lennon had these tape decks in his home, and his first date with Yoko Ono was putting that together. I'm going to call shenanigans on that. I'm not so sure that's the truth. It seems like it's really well put together piece of experimental tape music. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, Lennon just doesn't seem like he's very geeky or nerdy. And I just don't see his first experimenting with tape being the masterpiece that Revolution number 9 really is. Now, when you check out, and definitely you should, check out the Analogues. Their version of Revolution number 9 is completely different. They've recorded their own version of it, and it's spectacular. And there is a nightmarish bad trip of a movie. It's a distorted, psychedelic, but it's not what you would think. It's really well, it really fits. It's almost like they hunted down the original pieces that Lennon had, and they've got video of that. Like it was a movie, and so they're editing that together. It seemed like it was its own version. I don't know. I'd love to know more about how they did Revolution number 9. I quickly took a look at their website. I saw they're from Germany. I saw the instruments thing where you can take a look at how authentic everything is. I saw a quote by Jeff Emmerich, who was the Beatles engineer. His quote was, "I never thought that I would hear what I heard. They did an incredible job. It's simply magical that they're able to do this." And that's how I felt. I was in tears the entire time. I'm a sucker, and the Beatles is basically my childhood music. That was me growing up. So it's very powerful stuff, and I would highly recommend if you're a fan of the Beatles. If not, well, you're probably not watching at this point. Anyway, check out the Analogues, and like I always say, good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and peace. Oh, you know what? I just wanted to say, I looked at their tour dates, and they only play in Germany, but if they ever do come to the States, that would be a hot ticket. I would be there in a heartbeat. So that's my new favorite group. How boring am I? It's a Beatles tribute. American English is the name of the Beatles tribute that is the big deal here in Chicago. And I've seen them too many times. It's boring shtick seeing those guys. And they use a lot of backing tracks. But nonetheless, it's all right. Nothing compared to what I saw tonight, though. If you're an American English fan, you're going to shit your pants watching the Analogues. Because, like, I got all excited about Cheap Trick doing Sgt. Pepper, which I did get to see that. It was good. It was really good. It was Cheap Trick doing Sgt. Pepper. I mean, and they were all dressed. They had like special outfits and special instruments. It was spectacular. But this is the top shelf. Like nothing has ever come this close. Even seeing McCartney live, because they don't really do those versions. They don't do them to try to honor the album. It's completely different sound and feel. Whereas what I saw tonight, they really knocked it out of the park. And while as it isn't perfect, it's they do an incredible job at it. I don't think anyone has ever come even close to how good these guys sound. So yeah, check it out and peace.